Hi everyone, a very warm welcome to Life, Loss and Hope. Please continue to subscribe and share so that we can reach more people. Christmas can be the most wonderful time of the year, and yet for those who are bereaved, it's understandable that you may not feel able to connect with this joyous season, and it becomes something that has to be endured rather than enjoyed. Feelings of loss and grief can be especially hard during the festive season when there seems to be a perpetual sense of collective celebration all around you. You may feel social pressure at Christmas to be merry and cheerful. Sadly, this often makes you feel like you have to put on a brave face and there's no room for your grief. It can lead to feelings of intense loneliness and isolation, even if you have family and friends around you. Your loved one's absence is everywhere, and their absence is loud. Coping with bereavement around Christmas is challenging, and what makes it even harder is that the exposure to Christmas begins early in November, and sometimes even earlier. We're surrounded by festive lights, decorations, cheery families together in advertisements, Christmas songs in shops and on the radio, and consequently our emotions are heightened over an extended time as memories come flooding back, intensifying the feelings of pain, yearning, missing and sadness. It can feel very different from grieving a private anniversary or birthday at another time of the year, which is more focused on a date or a day, and although still very painful, the emotional upheaval can span a shorter time. Many people I support have expressed that they would prefer to cancel Christmas. They can't wait for it to be over. It's just too difficult for them. And that's completely understandable. It really is okay to feel this way, and helps to be able to express it to someone who understands. You may not want to put up a Christmas tree, decorations or send cards this year. And that's okay too. It's very important that you only do what you feel you can do. You may want to plan ahead and be really honest with yourself first, and then tell those close to you what you feel you can cope with and what is too painful for you. Write it down if it helps, and don't feel guilty or that you're letting friends and family down. If you just feel like having no Christmas traditions, you're not being the Christmas Grinch. You are grieving and wisely protecting yourself by setting your boundaries of what feels safe for you. Next year may be different, but for now it's how you feel. It can be hard to communicate honestly with those who care for us, and what usually stops us is thoughts of us being selfish, self-indulgent, or a misery. Remind yourself you are only being wise, authentic and realistic. It's exhausting and can be distressing to suppress your sadness and fake it through social events which leave you even more depleted emotionally and physically. You really need to preserve your capacity. And remember that saying no to other people is saying yes to yourself and your needs. If you're struggling with the loss of a loved one this Christmas, know that you're not alone. Talk to people who understand and explore things you can try that will hopefully make the festive season that little bit more bearable. Find what helps you best. I've found that one thing people really agonise about is how to write Christmas cards and how to sign them off. I mean, after all, what do you write? It's such a stark reminder, signing just one name, perhaps a single name at the bottom of the card, when for years you've been a couple or a family that has always signed 3 children's names and now a child has died. It's very distressing. Here's a great suggestion that I've borrowed from a bereaved man who had debated this over in his mind, and this is what he did. He had his wife's photo printed on a small stamp-sized sticker. So when he signed his name, he put the sticker of his wife's picture beside it to include her presence and his continuing love for her, acknowledging that her presence lives on in the absence of her name. For some, old traditions bring comfort and a sense of joy during times of grief, while for others, these may be too painful to bear. You can discuss with family what traditions or activities you'd like to keep or change to make the coming year easier. And maybe this year you can even create new traditions in memory of your loved one. Some people light a candle, some people leave an empty chair for them, go around the table perhaps and say a few words about them. You could put a flower arrangement on the table to honour them. Have a moment of silence, make a toast, read a memory you've written, look at family photos together or other items that were special to your loved one. And if you really feel up to it, you could always reach out to help others. This not only has the benefit of making you feel better, but offers a powerful distraction and sometimes gives you perspective on how you are feeling. Naturally, people want to avoid upsetting each other over Christmas and therefore assume that it is best not to mention the absent loved one. To those grieving, it can feel like your loved one is airbrushed out of your life by other people around you who are too scared to bring up their name for fear of upsetting you. I asked someone recently who didn't feel able to discuss this with his family, how would it feel to sit through Christmas Day with them all and not to mention the missing loved one? It could feel like they'd been forgotten or never even existed. I think that would be so heartbreaking, hurtful and insensitive. And the truth is that usually grieving people do want to talk and share memories of their loved one with friends and family, but they just don't communicate it. Even those closest to us aren't mind readers, and unless you say what's on your mind, they can be wary of bringing up your loved one's name. It doesn't mean they don't remember or they don't care. Often it's just they don't know what to do or what to say. It reminded me of an old BT advert. There were two emus, both with their heads buried deep in the sand, and there was thought bubbles coming out of each other's head. And both said, "I wish my brother would phone me." Both were thinking the same thing. And in families, often, both parties are thinking the same thing. I wish I could talk about mum or dad, but nobody wants to say it. I encourage people to acknowledge the absence, find ways to remember, share memories, even in the tears and sadness. Being vulnerable with those close to you builds intimacy and even stronger connections. And who is better to share those precious memories than those also who loved them? We need to hear our loved one's name in conversations in a natural and loving way. It will integrate their continuing presence and shared love in life going forward. Remember, your grief will start to change. Don't feel pressured into making this one a great Christmas. There will be others. And don't be afraid to ask for direct support from people by saying, "I'm finding Christmas tough and need extra support." Be direct. You could also arrange pre-arranged times when you meet up to talk with someone who understands so that you can share your emotions honestly. People that care for you will love to help, and remember that you're giving them a gift of being there for you. Practically, it may be a good idea to limit your alcohol intake, as too much can exaggerate some emotions and make you feel angry, tearful or depressed, as it rarely just numbs emotions. If you are still working, you may want to identify a private place in the office or maybe an unused room where you can just retreat for a brief time if you are feeling overwhelmed. And if you do go to Christmas socials, perhaps give yourself an exit strategy, just in case you start feeling upset. You can limit your time and others' expectations there by saying, maybe I'll just pop in for an hour, or maybe I'll stay for a drink but not the meal, or whatever you are comfortable with, so that if you need to leave, you can easily. It doesn't mean that you can't stay longer if it's going well. Being kind to yourself at Christmas is so important, and take extra care of yourself. Be your own best friend. It's probably good to be around others and not to isolate yourself, but it's also important to find a balance by taking time out when you need to rest. It may be helpful to revisit some of the earlier videos on early grief days, boundaries and self-care to remind yourself how restorative and grounding small actions can be. Perhaps like reading a book, meditating, deep breathing exercises, a bubble bath, small treats, listening to music, writing a journal or praying. Walking in nature or any form of exercise helps the body to release tension and flood it with the feel-good hormones. And finally, allow yourself to be happy. If you choose not to participate in Christmas, don't feel bad, selfish or guilty. You are being true to your needs. People that love you will understand. And if you do choose to participate at Christmas, don't feel guilty if you smile, laugh, or even enjoy yourself. Treasure any moments of unexpected happiness you experience. And think about how your loved one would have wanted you to carry on with your life. Even in our broken world and heartbreak, our Christmas season is still full of love, hope, and light. I read an amazing fact recently. The human eye can only see 0.0035% of the electromagnetic spectrum, as the rest of the light is imperceptible to our eyes. So therefore, nearly all of the light is the light that we can't see. In the darkest days of the year and when grief hits hard, it can feel like there is no light ahead. And it really helps me to know that even when I can't see the light, there's infinitely more light around me than I could ever imagine. And at Christmas, we celebrate the birth of Jesus, who said, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." As you remember your loved ones this Christmas, light a candle and lean into the light of hope and love, and know that there is more light around you than you can possibly see or imagine.